So this week we are looking at the 6 key questions that help you choose your best feature film idea. So welcome to Feature Film in a Year. We're breaking down the process and busting the myths of making a movie. We've been doing a little series about key questions to choosing the best idea for your feature film. And it's been really interesting. It's almost been like a checklist actually, because your first idea got to last episode's question and then it didn't pass. It didn't pass the question, you know, is it practically possible? So you had to shift your idea. So I think actually this has been a really, really helpful kind of like a series of diagnostic questions. Will this seed this idea, make it to the end? So one more question for this little series. Is there a need for this film?
I think is there a need for this film? It's pretty much just asking the question, and it ties back in with the very first question about the reason for making the film. But if this film gets out into the world, will it find its own little place and its own little audience?
Will it find its tribe? This is the buzzword of the day.
Because there's hundreds of thousands of films out there, and I don't think it's possible to necessarily chase after originality in its kind of purest sense. But if you're just retreading what's been done before, then, you know, is there any point? It's like, what kind of twist can I put on something to make it new? What can I add? What can I contribute with this film?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, it hits two different ways for me. It is speaking into the whole thing of why you're making your film and you know, is there a, you know, what you want to say, and ultimately, right, I want to make my film and I want to get it out there because I believe in it. But then also in a different sense, thinking, you know, what actually am I saying, and how could this in terms of kind of your creative idea for something, there's obviously within our cultures, there's different questions being asked, there's different there's different things that people are
like grappling with?
Grappling with. Often films come out after after that happens to try and explain or make sense of it. You find that with war films in terms of 10 years after people start to explore that, and it happens, you know, sci-fi is often a genre that...
World Trade Center, that kind of...
Yeah, all those different things, where there's some tragedy or conflict has happened. But sci-fi films is often a genre that explores like our hopes and fears maybe and humanity, you know, in terms of maybe artificial technology, you know, change in genetics, all those different things. Films can be vehicles that explore questions that we have about the future or about the present or about the past. And I think that can be a fuel for creativity in thinking of your own life and thinking, you know, your own family history or the own history of your nation or different things, but thinking, actually, where is this going to go? And as Andy said, if it's another kind of, I don't know, a film that just says exactly the same thing as something else has done, then it's thinking, is that the best? You know, is that going to be the best to get it in front of someone?
So there's a practical element there of like, is my idea just going to be, oh, that was insert title of other film here. Do you know the sense?
Yes.
You know, like it reminds me a little bit of when Avatar came out, and there was that whole I mean, I love Avatar with a huge passion, so this hurts me. But like, there was that whole backlash of like, this is just Pocahontas.
I forgot about it for years, but then I remembered that Avatar, a giant international blockbuster, used the papyrus font as its logo.
There is a backlash when people like, kind of see a copycat.
It can go either way as well, I think, because sometimes it can just go against it, as in one film is made and it hits all the right things, and then something else comes out that it could have been developed at the same time, but just doesn't hit it. Or sometimes it helps feed both of them in terms of. So it's an interesting one. I think you think about what you want to say, but ultimately, if you're confident in what you want to do, I think it's an important question to think: how does this fit? Particularly with getting it out there, getting it, what's going to be interesting. But it does relate back to it if you believe in what you're doing, if you believe you've got something original to say and you're making it for the reasons that you've kind of decided.
So what about when you want to stand out? When you want to be very purposefully, like, I'm not even doing anything like what all these other lots are, to the point where it could be on the edge?
I think it's a good challenge in terms of thinking of genre or thinking of stories in terms of particularly relating to indie filmmaking, because I think your idea should be able to work in a number of different scenarios if the theme is clear. So then that can be a kind of stimulating thing for creativity of thinking, right, I've got this theme, and what if I put it in this scenario?
I see.
Particularly if it's not explored, relating to maybe class or time period or,
but you set it in a really bizarre context like space or whatever. It's like really shake it up.
Low budget space.
Low budget, practical space.
But that sort of that thing of it can just it can stimulate things, and audiences can help you stand out if you're kind of mixing things, or if you're doing something with maybe a genre or a story that is unexpected. People don't know what's similar to music in terms of the people who have pioneered where rock and roll came out of blues and jazz to a certain extent, and all the different routes were different.
They're just pushing the envelope.
So it can kind of create something new and something which feeds into our question of where does it sit? How do I want to? Yeah,
it does, because as much as like you could be the next, I don't know, Quentin Tarantino, like really pushing the envelope on story and character and film style, but there's still that kind of elastic tension between like pushing the envelope but kind of remaining relevant to a certain degree, so that people still understand what's going on and
the principles of good storytelling, and because I don't think they change, but I think you can take it cynically in being like, okay, I just want to do something that's so different, I'm just like, that'll stand out, it'd be so amazing, versus what could I do with this theme, this story, this scenario, that could change, that could really help it be interesting, and then thinking, then that would help it stand out. So I think the best way to take it is to be another tool in helping you be creative and think, challenge yourself, to stimulate ideas.
I find it really interesting that we've kind of posed the question as, is there a need for this film? How do you guys feel about that phrasing in terms of a creative? Like, do you really care that there's a need for the film, or like, should you care? Does that make sense? Like when I'm writing a piece of music, I'm like, I kind of started, if I'm honest, in like a self-interested place of like, I was just jamming or whatever. I wasn't really necessarily thinking like, is there a need for this track? But it's got to come in at some point. So can you speak into that?
I think like creativity, when you first start creating, whether it's music or whether it's film, you naturally like want to imitate your heroes. Yeah,
inspiration we call it.
And that's like really, really fun, and a really good way to learn as well. And I guess that's part of self-expression as well. But it feels like creativity cannot just remain purely self-centered, or it ends up just kind of going around in circles, or you just end up becoming so sort of introspective, all about me, all about whatever. The whole idea of expressing is outward. The action of expression is outward. Therefore, it can't just be expression for your own sake. I feel like if you're wanting to create, if you're wanting to express in that way, it has to in part be for the benefit of others as well. And so the question of like, where's it going to fit is just asking, okay, what issue is this film like really about? What's the theme? What's the core here?
Yeah.
Whatever I put on top of it style-wise,
like,
is it actually something that other people are going to gravitate to, relate to, connect with?
Yes.
And that can just help with, like, get away from some of the sort of navel gazing. I mean, yeah, by all means, you can go and make your sort of obscure, like, art house film. But like the way we tell stories, I don't think has changed over the centuries. Like, you can be in the queue in the post office and you hear someone kind of sharing about their neighbour or whatever. And just as like you get art house films that kind of go on this random rambly journey and maybe get somewhere, maybe don't, you also get your kind of great Uncle Jeffrey going on his rambly old story, and you know,
sometimes
no one listens to him. And so yeah, it's asking what kind of filmmaker I want to be. Do I want to be rambly old Jeffrey who ultimately no one listens to, or do I want to be, I don't know, someone who kind of connects and benefits others?
I like that a lot. It's really practical because it can feel a little bit restrictive on the creative beating heart of us to kind of go, oh, does it fit in the market? Like, I don't care, I just want to make. But actually, you're like, I don't want to be a rambly person nobody listens to. I actually appreciate as a creative, I appreciate walking people on a journey with me. So there is an element of needing to meet them where they're at, because otherwise, you know, they say that communication is a two-way process. Otherwise you're just shouting at people. And so you want to make sure there's feedback, there's that feedback loop, so that they're tracking with you and the story and the characters. And I mean, as much as all creators want to just create, no creative wants like 0 ratings, 0 stars, 0 views. That's just true. So there's got to be that tension between. It's got to fit somewhere.
I think definitely thinking of your audience and who's going to be watching your film is a really good check point in terms. I think ultimately you for me, I want to do something with integrity, with something that, you know, I feel is worthwhile. But then actually thinking about how best to put that out there is a really good. I don't think, like I said, it needs to be a controlling factor in terms of all encompassing, but definitely, you know, as a tester, you know, thinking of what you're gonna, you know, if you're gonna make a Western, you know, thinking, right, what am I actually doing here? You know, that is what I'm saying different? Is there am I just retreading ground? Or so it's definitely a kind of good to check the box off in terms of thinking, you know, and that's something we'll do with our idea in terms of how is it going to get out there? Will it have a place? Is it, you know, does it link with anything going on, or are the themes, you know, clear enough so people will get it? So it's kind of a.
I mean, we talk about it being a tension between the two, but I almost wonder if it's just 2 tick boxes. I would like it to fit in a market so people get it, and I would also like it to push the boundaries a bit so it's fresh.
Yeah,
it can be both.
And I think with the higher you go up, sometimes with millions or tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, the need for the big Hollywood or whatever big studio to know that the audience is gonna do that. The pressure seems to be cranked up, but I think at the stage of you making your indie, you want to be expressing your voice in the best way possible. Because I think ultimately, if you're trying to, if it controls so much, you're thinking, I want to make. Was it Cowboys versus Aliens, or, you know, something that was so I'd never actually saw it, but if you're trying to, I don't know if it's a good or a bad film, but something that's so different, because you think this is going to be so different, it's going to be amazing, but actually you've just thought of something and there's no substance to it. If your voice doesn't come through it and what you want to say because it's so different because you think it's going to fit, you know, that, I think that's the extreme of going one way versus you want to balance that between how is this going to be when it gets out there, but ultimately doing anything creative is a risk, isn't it? You're stepping out and putting yourself out there, and you never know what people are going to think. But but getting away from that insular, tortured artist, no one understands me. I think is a good step. It
makes me think. The 3 of us could probably think of ideas or case in points where a film has just played it so safe it's dull, or a film that's played it so out of the box I can't watch it, it's unwatchable. So if you guys have any of those case examples, hit them in the comments. We'd love to see examples of like the gnarly insane to the kind of like so safe it's dull. Yeah, that'd be great to hear what you think. So for you guys, with your idea, this story that you're running with, how has this question kind of really helped you in refining the process for going forward?
I think this is probably the question that we probably have the most work still to do in terms of taking the idea from just an inspiration, a seed, to something that's a bit more tangible and therefore is for a specific defined market or something. Yeah. But for me, this question just helps. It helps encourage me to steer away from cliches, I think. To be always thinking, okay, if I think this moment in the story is perhaps retreading ground too much, how can I like bring something fresh to it? How can I do something that's not expected in this moment? Because those are often some of the best moments in films, where you're in a recognisable setting or a scenario, you've seen it in film before, and then something completely different happens that you haven't seen before, and it feels like they're breathing fresh life into something that otherwise was
keeps you tracking,
familiar.
I think like one of the key things for me is when I'm watching a film is that there's the barriers that could be anything confusing or in a bad way, because you can have stuff where you're looking to work something out, what's happening there. But if something takes you out of the film, then that's what you essentially want to avoid. So striking the balance right with that. So that links to everything: your location, your characters, and your story, and often doing things that are surprising or trying to give a fresh take on that helps kind of make it stand out and interesting.
And actually, I think that's probably one reason why, for this specific idea about the initial inspiration, the true story of the Japanese officer who didn't surrender till 30 years after the war had ended, it's one reason why I don't think we want to do a war movie. Obviously, practical considerations.
In a period, not from the 70s, that's not going to work. The theme, as Andy was saying, about the character, what they do in a certain, what's behind that,
That's where you can breathe new life.
Duty.
Into kind of the miscellaneous elements that surround the character.
Start from that, and then where could that go? Where how do you bring different elements in, different stresses, conflicts, different challenges?
Really cool. Yeah, nice. Well, that's great, guys. Thank you so much for that series of questions. I found it. I'm a musician, but actually I can see loads of parallels.
Thank you, Nate.
We'll convert you, man. We'll convert you.
I wish I was as cool as you guys.
Whatever.
We are paying him a lot of money to say that.
So we're just going to wrap up, but before we do, a huge thank you from us for tracking with us in these videos. Please tell us what you like. Not so much what you dislike about these videos, but do throw us your questions. Actually, if there's things you want us to be talking about, maybe more practical stuff, more specifics about the process of making a film, that's what we're here for the next year. So please, just like no holds barred, give us the questions you want answered, and we'll do our best. But yeah, hit subscribe, get to know us, and track with us as we make a feature film in a year.